Welcome to Be Growth Driven. It's your place for exclusive insights from leading entrepreneurs. We designed this to help inspire you, see innovation, and then drive your personal and professional growth. And so we're interviewing entrepreneurs from many different industries. And I'm very privileged to have a good friend of mine that I've known for a really long time, one of the founders of Bedhead Marketing, Brandon Bain. And a little bit about Brandon, we'll let him kind of introduce himself a little bit too, but he started as a philosophy graduate from Texas A&M University. He was the first ever intern at Mattress Firm back in 1998, and he led a top producing retail store. And he's a partner for high-tech security company. That's where him and I actually met. And then he served as VP roles in PR in the automotive industry. And then he founded Because Marketing in 2016. And then right now, where we lead up to today, is he specializes in embedding brand growth. And so without further ado, Brandon, great to have you on Be Growth Driven. I probably butchered that intro a little bit about
man.
you. You can clarify it.
Thanks for a trip down memory lane.
We like to look at those things because we want to make sure that when our audience is listening and they're listening to the wisdom that you're sharing, that there has to be a track record. You have to have gone through the trenches. So we really want to try to give that picture of where somebody's come from, because it really helps in the long run.
Well, I've always told my son, there's two ways to learn in life: from your own mistakes or from someone else's. Which one do you think hurts less? I'm a big podcast listener, and I listen to your podcast too. So thanks for having me on. Proud to be here.
I love it. Tell the listeners, tell the viewers, tell them a little bit about you, though. I kind of gave you the rough intro there, but tell us who Brandon is.
So I'm a father of three. I have a 11-year-old boy and twin daughters. Married to my wife. We've been together just 18 years now. I think married for almost 16. Yeah, so I better get that right. You'll see her at Dream Camp here too soon. And then, I basically founded Because Marketing 2016. And just because I had some connections in the mattress category, and they started doing work with us for brand and websites and logos and all kinds of marketing services. We're a full stack marketing agency. They said, hey, it's pretty easy to work with you. You know what you're doing. So when I say, hey, the tape edge is this color and the gusset's this big and this Bonnell coil, I speak the language. That was one of the first things we had to learn in our old training at Matt Firm in 98 was you had to pass component testing. They sent you through factories before you got kind of like your general training. So I spoke components. I know the sales floor, and that's where I met Stephen Ferguson, and we became really good friends. And after going through some of these clients, like some very large clients, top 5 in the industry, and started getting retailers that wanted to work with us too, Stephen saw some of my stuff at the time. He was a buyer over at Matt Firm and said, hey, you're onto something here. So 6 months later, we founded Bedhead Marketing that serves exclusively this category. It's all we focus on, the bedding industry. And it's brought this unique confluence of experience from all these different areas, from marketing to merchandising, sales training, Brent Batterman. We have Anna Hermosillo, who's an expert on the wholesale side and manufacturing side and big box. So we have a lot of really good experience here that can deliver a lot of value for suppliers, manufacturers, and retailers in this category.
Wow. I appreciate it. You actually just killed my first question that I had. So you laid it. I was going to ask you what was behind the creation of Bedhead. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, that was it, is that frankly, it was just what I consider an underserved market. And it's typically advice that I give people is try to find a market where you have a unique value prop for that particular category. Even we see this in our own industry as well, Joel. We see companies like Big Fig, right? Mm-hmm. That's short for big figure. These are beds that are made for bigger people. That's all they do. If you're skinny, we don't want you. These are big people. And then you have the pillow cube, right? This is for side sleepers only. If you sleep on your back, forget about it. We don't want you. So the idea is to niche down into something you're an expert at. And as a result, we've been able to drop our cost of acquisition of a client down to virtually it's very little, because people seek us. They're seeking the expert opinion.
Well, now at first, was it always that way? Because a lot of times companies are struggling through that. Well, what niche should we go after? And they really haven't built the decision off of any data, right?
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
so
like who like our one of our best friends in the world here, Mr. Mark Kinsley says the first person through the wall gets the bloodiest nose. So you don't
right,
have anything to show, you don't have any examples. You got to start like, proving it first, especially with some of these larger companies that have a lot on the line. And I find, Joel, that in our industry in particular, there's a lot of decision making that's based on fear of losing my job. I don't want to lose my job. I'm not taking a chance on
right,
this product or this service or this new guy. Like if I can go and hey, here's a perfect example. You and I worked together for almost 15 years, right? Like
yeah,
back with when I ran Indian. And one of the sayings that was around IT, and you'll remember this, was you can't get fired for buying Cisco, right? That was the number one product,
right,
right? That's like the Tempur-Pedic for networking, network security stuff, right?
right,
So all these IT guys didn't want to lose their job by taking a chance on a cheaper product, even though it might be better, because they
right,
wanted to keep their job. So there's a lot of that kind of fear-based, um, you know, continued services in our industry. They don't want to try a new product that hasn't been proven. They want to see you prove it out, and then they'll consider it. They just don't want to lose
right.
the job
Well, and they want to see it proven out in that industry.
in the
And so
industry.
in the
Yeah,
industry, because you can have
exactly.
it proved out. I'm a big believer with my background for over 26 years in data and consulting and strategy all around the data side of it. It's like you see enough of these things, it's like you do know that it'll work. However, the challenge is still when you dive into different industries, they're going to want you to prove that it actually works in that industry.
Yeah,
You know,
I was talking to an engineer, and he says our number one quote here at my company is not invented here. Go invent it somewhere else and prove it somewhere else, and then we'll look at it, right?
oh wow,
So
yeah,
yeah, I mean it's powerful, but it's true. And I think a lot of people don't think that about themselves. They think, oh no, I'm willing to try all kinds of things. I'm willing to at the core fundamental, what we do is we are risk adverse and we don't like to try new things. So anytime you can prove out what you're doing in a very specific use case that applies directly to what they're doing, you can show them you're losing money by not having already hired me, right? And then you
right,
win.
yeah, no, no, 100%, and I love that. What would at the beginning, because a lot of times when people start a new business, when they start a venture, like they're worried about there's really always the unknown of what's going to happen, right? So when you guys started Bedhead, what were some of the early challenges that you were faced with? How did you overcome them? I mean, and what was the mindset first of all behind that when those challenges came?
Yeah, there's a lot of challenges when starting a small, like boutique style marketing agency. And it's this, I think the primary one, which is not, I don't think any business is immune to it, but it's just more exaggerated for smaller businesses, is the growth, the continued growth of sales and keeping production up with it. How much
Yep.
production do I grow versus my sales? And it's like constant balancing act, right? It's like, you know, that is a big concern because as production queues start increasing, you start slowing down your sales like, oh, we're too busy. Don't go get more sales. And then
Right.
guess what? 3 months later, that sales cycle,
Right.
like, where are all the sales? Well, we stopped because we were too busy. So it's
Right.
constantly keeping the sales in line with the production, which we've figured out to a large extent here. But I would say that was the first one. A second one is just teaching people what we do because no one has done what we do. No one has ever been a marketing sales, 3D graphic design, training company for this category.
Right.
I always said that people that know what we know usually create a brand and they go off and become Purple and Nectar and Casper and they become a bed in a box brand. They don't share what they know with the retailers and the manufacturers. We are trying to support this industry and help them all out where typically people with our knowledge would try to build something on their own and make $100 million bedding brand.
Right. Well, with those challenges there too, is like as you're overcoming, like how do you guys keep the team aligned? Because that is the constant balancing act. You got these people maybe handling production, and now you got to keep the sales focused. Because I know what we do here. How do you keep that team aligned with the mission of Bedhead?
Yeah, I know you and I have similar kind of business models. I think that your process has been really impressive. I've enjoyed seeing kind of the tools that you implement. You're a technologist at heart, so you're always like, "How can we automate this? How can we make this easier?" And you've done an incredible job. Those are some of the things we're trying to do as well with implementing tools like Basecamp, project management tools and platforms and stuff. But ultimately, keeping the team aligned is like for example, last week Brent Batterman did a whole disc assessment. Are you familiar with disc assessments?
Oh, yes.
Okay,
I
I did
love
my
me
first
some disc
one.
assessments. I love me some disc
Okay, so
assessments.
I
Yeah.
did my first one last week, and we took a whole day, and they made me commit. They said, Brandon, you're going to be in front of a computer. You cannot look at anything else because I'm ADD. I will be like squirrel, right? So I
Yeah.
had to stop for the whole day, and we have to do disc assessments, and it taught us a lot about how people, respond to certain things, and it really got us opening up. And now every Thursday, we take an hour for execution of these things. So we're actually working in our business instead or on our business instead of in our business on that 1 hour every week. So we're carving out time.
Wow.
And that is really hard for me because there's work to do. And I'm like, okay, that's
Right.
okay. I gotta do this. So keeping people aligned requires open communication. When I say open, is like that means I'm not going to penalizing you for saying something that I might not want to hear. Like,
Right.
tell me I suck to my face. Okay, how do I suck? Tell me. Number two is being intentional about that conversation so it just doesn't go wild. And then I think the third thing that I've had to learn over the last week is never leave these conversations without a clear, defined action plan that you can hold each other accountable for executing on. Because so many times you get these people in a room, yeah, good idea, and then nothing. Like nothing happens.
Yeah. And
So
it
having a
goes down
follow-up
tangent
process.
lane and gets lost,
Yep,
or
exactly,
something like that. Yeah.
exactly.
No, I love that. So yeah, because we look at the same thing too. Like we look at our core values as a critical part of how we do business.
Mm,
And like that open communication would be transparency. But
yeah.
then also one of our core values is inspirational. So you can't be negative, right?
Inspirational transparency.
Yeah.
It's like, you inspire me how much you suck.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Like I never knew a human could do that, was capable of that much,
I love it. I love it.
but so it's but the building the team, I think that's one of the most critical parts for any business. Like if you're not focused on how you're going to build the team, inspire the team, especially as owners of a company, but then the same way too, it's like you got to transfer that same desire to inspire your team to the team, so that way they're kind of infectious to everybody else. And that's, I know one thing that we've preached quite extensively as we've brought on people. It's like we get them stabilized, because it's like I need them to be psyched and excited and willing to march through the trenches, or else the person I just hired won't do it.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
And I think what you're talking about is how do you create a culture? How do you
yeah,
create a great culture? Like
or
intentionally create it.
a
Um,
community is, I've heard it expressed differently as that
yeah,
culture is based upon where you come from. Like, hey, you came from Italy or something like that, and then there's cultural things there, but you
sure.
create community, right? Where that
Yeah,
embraces culture.
I think yeah, and I think that culture obviously root word being cult, but
Yeah.
a community might be more appropriate. But I think that how do you create an environment that people want to do the hard thing? They're inspired to do the hard thing. And I remember this interview with Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spinks, and she said every once a week at dinner, our dad would ask us, "What did you fail at this week?" And we had to have something epic. So it basically like created this classical conditioning for them to get excited about trying something different that was hard that they're going to fail at and report it. And because of that mentality, she went through so many trials and tribulations on trying to develop this Spanx product. But that sort of reference in her life allowed her to keep pushing and get excited about this failure. She basically reassigned that in her head as feedback, not failure. So yeah, it's how do you turn this culture into people that are trying to push and do different things, and they're rewarded for it, and they're
Mhm.
encouraged to, do the things that are hard and grow.
What in that in that whole process, what would you say, since you started Bedhead? What have been some of the biggest setbacks, and then the lessons learned from that?
Biggest setbacks. Well, because we're a small organization, anytime you lose somebody, it's a setback because
Yeah.
you spend a lot of time, talent, and treasure training. And frankly, we can't just hire anybody. We always say that we can't just go grab someone off the street and teach them the mattress business. We have to get them from the mattress business and teach them marketing. Like that's
Right.
easier than
Yeah.
the opposite. So finding the right fit is an important one. And that ends up setting us back a little bit typically because you might be 1/8 of the team, 1/5 of the team, right? And you have a big
Yeah.
role, and now all your responsibilities get flushed to everybody else until we can reassign those. But we've had a couple of those. We've had a pretty I wouldn't say nothing's been rocky, but we've had a hard time scaling out our internal infrastructure to support the rapid growth. And that's a lot of people would love to have those problems. It's like, oh my gosh, it's like
Yeah.
you got a lot of sales and now you got to like scale out the infrastructure. Well, my business partner and best friend, Stephen Ferguson, and I are both gas people. We need brakes people, right? Because we need people that are operational and focused
Yep.
on process and saying, slow down, let's figure this out. And we're like, go get it, go get it. So that I think has been a challenge in our business is getting the right people in our system. Like Brent is one of those people. Anna's one of those people that can help us slow down, put processes together so that we can have consistent, sustained, measurable results in our production.
Right. So someone that has the courage to say stop, right?
Yeah.
Or they're very carefully they kind of nudge you. I know what you mean. It's like you got to have those people in the organization, and they also, what I found too is like they also need to be aligned with that growth mentality.
Mhm.
However, it's realizing how to break it down into just actionable steps and keep that on task, right?
Yeah, yep. We have a thing we call the pressure tank. So when someone hires us, for example, to do consulting on a brand, and they say, "Hey, where does our brand fit in the ecosystem of all these brands?" And we'll get down into a Zoom and we'll argue over where they are and what things are, and we just fight it out, and it gets pretty funny sometimes. But I always am reminded of the John Stuart Mill quote: "The truth is struck between a set of two conflicting ideas, but you have to be willing to accept someone fighting you to get to the right result. If you don't like confrontation, it's really, really hard. Like you have to learn to say, okay, I get it. You're going to hate this, but I'm going to say it anyway because we got to strike the truth, right? So being able to be unashamed about an idea that's not popular in your company is critical for the growth of the company. The seven deadliest words in business, we've always done it this way, right? Like you have to be able to challenge all these ideas.
Yeah.
So I think bringing people in with a different mentality or a different disc assessment, it could be
Yep.
helpful for that.
Yeah. That you need that heavy analyzer side, and then you need the
Yep.
driver side, which is probably where you and Steven are at,
Yeah.
right? And
I
then you
was
need that.
ID, by the way, if anyone wants to know how to talk to me.
There you go. Well, I look at that way too. It's like sometimes when like going back to the disc assessment, it's like sometimes now that you know that this is, hey, some of the triggers for you, like don't talk. Well, now you can work on not letting that trigger you.
Sure.
At the there's responsibility that goes both ways. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, you do need um, that rounded team that has your analyzers, has your stabilizers. They like to make everything orderly and consistent. And the analyzers like to jump into the details. And your influencer should be doing the sales and getting out to the conferences and all those types of things. I
Yeah, and
love
it's
it.
kind of like your philosophy is some data is good, more is better, right? So like
Yeah.
having more data is not, harmful to your business. Obviously you got to make a decision at the end of the day, but you got to have the data. So that requires extra opinions.
Yeah. Well, and that makes the data sexy, right? So, I
That's
mean,
right.
I
Makes
got
it
a
more
good
believable.
I got a good friend. He's like, data's not sexy. I'm like, but the results are. And he's like, oh, okay, I'm with you there. You know, and that's a landscape that's changing quite a bit. Speaking of data, and just speaking of the landscape changing, where do you think? Um, two layers to the question because we're both in marketing. Where do you think the marketing industry is going? And then, what steps do you think companies need to start making now to adapt to that?
I mean, you and I both know the answer. You know the answer is
I do.
AI. We know that artificial intelligence and generative learning is if you don't learn these tools, these prompt engineers are going to come and take your marketing job because they know
Yep.
how to use the tools. So this reminds me of when the internet became more widespread and people started saying, "Oh, the internet's going to take all these jobs." Well, the internet created the most entrepreneurs in the history of the universe because
Mhm.
now a little kid can get on eBay and sell something and he's an
Right.
entrepreneur. So ultimately, AI is going to be similar. It's going to be a tool that people use. And if you're adverse to learning new skills, then good luck. So, AI, there's a lot of tools out there that help support what we do because it can
Right.
just analyze data without bias, whether that's
Right.
your customer data whether that's talking about what kind of ads should I run. We'll say these are the ones that people respond to and are working in your target demographic with your price point in your area. Like, it can account for so many variables that we just can't account for as humans. That is where the industry is going.
Right. I would agree with you there. I would add a couple others is privacy policy, privacy.
Okay, so
Privacy.
now we're trying to pick at your scabs.
No, this is just in general, because when you think
Yeah,
about like AI and marketing happening and then people coming to your landing pages, websites, they come buy from your store, they come to a retail store, and now a company is storing information on someone they sold something to. Like, privacy is becoming a big mountain too, because you got all kinds of politicians getting all, we won't go political here at all, but
right.
it
Well, I
you
would just say about that, because you and I both work together in the security industry,
yeah,
right? And we know that privacy and security are diametrically opposed, right? You
right,
want more security, you got to, give up a little bit of privacy, and vice versa. Like, it's both, it kind of, they're inversely related. So, people want convenience. Well, you got to give up security, right? So
right,
we see this happening where companies are like Apple are leading the charge. iOS 15, for example, where
yep,
now we can't even look at an email campaign and decide how many opens it has because the transparent pixel is triggered for everybody. So yeah, I think that it's a constant battle. You and I know that when we are doing these analytics, a constant battle between trying to get as much data that we can
yeah.
that's good, verifiable data, and these technology companies trying to reduce our access to it.
Right. And it's just, and I think it's, you could live in the past, or you got to embrace, going back to your statement on AI, you got to embrace it, you
Yeah.
know, is essentially what it comes down to. Cause if you don't embrace it, then you're getting stuck in a closed loop back in the past,
Yeah.
and it's just going to hold you there, and you're going to lose the opportunities that your company could benefit from.
Right.
So, no, I love that. What would you say your future goal? What are future goals for Bedhead going into 24, into 25? What are some big future goals of where you guys want to be if we look back and talk to you a year from now?
Man, like the big, hairy, audacious goal. Maybe I'm, not the janitor of my company. I'm just kidding. No, I think that we want to continue to expand our offerings because we want to be considered as a one-stop shop. So you don't have to go here for that and here for that and here for that. So there's all kinds of services. You and I partner together on a lot of
Yep.
different services as well, as an example, because you guys are very good at what you do. And instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, we partner together and you do it. So we think that by adding a full suite of services, making it a one-stop shop, becoming increasingly more partner focused for our customers, that we're going to be able to deliver on some pretty big goals. We have a couple of things that I think are on our our mind share. Number one is we want to deliver a lot more training. We want to deliver. We think that the RSA is the key to the retail experience, and they often don't get the resources, tools, and attention and investment, for that matter, that they need to make a good living, do well, and create high conversion, high ticket average, high margin, etc. So
Right.
we're developing programs. We have programs. We have some clients there, and that's a big growth sector for us moving into 25. The other thing that we have are more. We're looking to increase our um, uh, recurring revenue, because frankly, in our business, like, even if you're an RSA, a retailer, every month you start at zero, right? And starting at zero is
Yeah.
like, okay, let's do it again. Now it starts over, new budgets, do it again, right? So being able to increase your recurring revenue gives you more stability, and that's for us also good for our customers because they like predictability in their pricing. So instead of paying you one-time huge fees, they can pay you over time, and just we can grow that recurring revenue. And ultimately, I think that that's going to be good, a win-win for both. But I would say those are the two things that we're focused on right now.
Right. No, and I think that like, especially like with the RSAs, because if all the other marketing pieces work, drives traffic to the store, and the RSA drops the ball, they always blame the marketing guy,
Yeah,
right? The customer didn't buy. Well, your RSA didn't close them. They
right.
walked in. They walked through the door. They didn't. Just I always illustrate it to like clients that I talk about across, and this is any industry because we work with a lot of different brick and mortar stores and things of that sort. But it's like the person didn't wake up this morning thinking, hey, I'm going to go spend $10,000 or $5,000 on a bed. I want to go endure going to a car dealership or a flooring
Right.
store,
Right.
you
Yeah,
know?
I mean, maybe if you're a glutton for punishment or something, but I would say that if you have this one fundamental approach to your sales approach, that this would improve all of it, which is um, everyone that comes in is looking to solve the problem right now, right? They don't want to go to the next door and the next door and the next door. They want to solve it right now and they want to get back to the freaking game. They want to go enjoy the rest of their day. Shopping for mattresses is not fun. And if they don't buy, it's because they weren't convinced that they got the right value, the right product, it's the right time, right? Maybe they were confused. So I attack every single interaction is like almost like I got to solve this. I got to break it down. I got to understand more
Right.
so that I can attack the problem. Which is always the fun part. Having a 45 minutes sales cycle where you go from not knowing them to building rapport and trust and like a very intimate product where they might, where they sleep with their husband or wife, and then to buying a very expensive product. It was very gratifying. And it's also kind of humbling because you might not eat that week if you don't close this deal. So it's
Yeah.
intense too. So yeah, I think that if you take the approach that they're asking you to help them close this deal, they want you to close it. So that's kind of mentality you have to have.
I love that. I love it. Now, we mentioned earlier in this conversation how long you and I have known each other. We met through the tech company you were at, those types of things. But we've been able to spend more time because of this thing called networking.
Mm.
And a lot of business owners, some business owners are actively networking, those types of things. Some of them, they shy away from it. What would you say? What would be your advice? How important has networking been to you? And then like what advice would you give other entrepreneurs like if they're not actively involved in some good solid networking? What should they look for? A couple
Yeah.
questions, I
So
suppose.
this is the thing that it's really hard to put like an ROI activity behind the event because sometimes these networking like event connections can take 6 months, a year, 2 years before anything materializes out of that event.
Yeah.
So I understand the reticence behind putting dollars behind this sort of thing because it's just really it's not like buying a Google ad and like, oh, here's how many impressions and clicks and pull throughs,
Right.
and you can like see it and measure it, and there it is, right? But if you are presenting in an industry where you're proposing that you are an expert, you need to be at these events.
Right. Well, I've even found too, it's like figure out the networking events that they don't expect to see you at. Go for it.
Sorry, I was in urgent care yesterday for upper respiratory infection, so I'm coughing
Oh
more than I
no.
usually. Yeah, but still
Okay.
good.
All right. All right. It's working its way out. It's
But I got the medicine, I got cough drops, and I'm bound to get better before dream camp. So
I love
carry
it.
on.
All right. Uh, but like just on networking, I mean, what about going to events that you wouldn't typically go? Like, there's the low hanging networking type of events. I guess what I don't know about you, but it's like I found, go show up in the places they never expect you to show up to network.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you are one of thousands of people that do what you do at an event, you're white noise.
Yeah.
Like doesn't help you. But if you are if you're a rose in a field of daisies, you're gonna stand out, right? That's basically what you're doing, right? So I would just say, sorry about the coffee. I would just say that you want to be able to find your target niche that's underserved and then go and create a persona, an identity, an avatar of yourself, become
Hmm.
a thought leader in the industry. We don't do any advertising for our company. What we do to improve our brand recognition is we do videos where we try to help our customers by providing them insights and thoughts. And we go to events and give them the rundown. This is what we saw if you didn't get to make it, giving them tips and tricks. Not really trying to sell our services, just let them know that we care about people in this industry. We want to help. And when you're ready, you can come to us, you can trust us. So that's kind of our modus operandi when it comes to marketing and advertising. But like I always say, we are a niche in a niche. Mattress industry is a a subsection of the furniture industry. So,
Right.
we are bedhead marketing. We're not, furniture marketing. So yeah, I would just say that going to these networking events, um, the number one problem people have though at these events is the failure of follow up. It's the number one problem,
Mm,
and which is why almost none of them like feel like they had success afterwards. They have a
right.
stack of business cards, like yeah, look how awesome, and then you get back to your office and you have a stack of work now because you were out for 2 days, and all this is urgent. So I got to do all this, and then I put it off for 3 days, 4 days, and I don't follow up, and then all that effort is wasted. Now I might have learned some things from a keynote speech here and
Right.
there, but all the gold is in the networking. And you have to have a process by which you are following up with your networking. Otherwise, don't go. You're just kind of
Right.
wasting your time.
Well, you won't get what you can out of that opportunity,
You won't
right?
maximize it. You won't
Yeah.
maximize
You
it.
won't
Right.
get, and so it's yeah, I've been guilty of that. I come back with a stack of I still got stacks of business cards on my desk that transparently, like, I need to go punch that data into our system, to our C360 system, and start the follow-up process, right? But
They start getting your Christmas cards and
there you go, right? So, but it's just you gotta start somewhere, and I think the other important aspect of this is don't wait till it's perfect. Just do it. You know,
okay,
the
Nike.
thing well, yeah, the thing that stands out the thing that stands out is sometimes just doing it, just the follow-up,
Yeah,
right?
motion creates emotion, right? Like
Yeah.
getting out there and being a part of the culture, seeing what's new, what's different, talking to people that are fighting the same
Mhm.
battles you are, right? They're in the trenches
Right.
and they're trying something different and they're going to give you their opinions because you're not direct competitors. We see that all the time, especially with these retailers, and they're two retailers that you would have never think would like share their experiences. The differentiation in our industry is very thin, right? So people
Uh-huh.
don't like to share their trade secrets. But these events, like the one that Kinsley puts on, where people are sharing openly these different things that are working, they're incredible. And you feel like you go there and you give a lot, but you get a lot back in return.
Oh, absolutely. I've loved it because and you also at the end of the day, like for folks like you and I, we're hanging out with the other business owners. They're going through the same challenges of people, process, all of those things that we go through. We got something different that we're selling. That's it. They're
Right.
selling a square. We're selling the stuff that helps you sell more squares. You
Right.
know, and those types of things. So, let me ask you a final question. This is, of course, in harmony with this podcast, Be Growth Driven. What does being growth driven mean to you? What does that absolutely mean to you?
Okay. The first thing I think of, and I've never heard this asked this way, but our buddy Jason Friedman told us it's easier to 10x your business than it is to 2x your business. And the reason why is because the kinds of changes that you need to make to 10x your business require fundamentally like doing things massively different, right?
Right.
And you're more likely to hit that goal if you do make massive changes. Where the changes you think you need to make to just 2x your business, you're just going to make small incremental changes and you're going to end up with small incremental results. So be growth driven is constantly about thinking about that 10x mentality, that growth mentality that I need. If I'm going to do things in a major way, I got to make major fundamental changes and keep reconsidering and re-auditing everything that I do. Can it be faster, better, cheaper for my customers? Can I provide a better service for them? And can we, continue to serve in a way that nobody else is willing to serve? That's the growth mentality. It's being customer centric. It's being focused on scaling your business in a massive way, and willing to try new things. Again, this is marketing. Marketing is about split
Right.
testing. It's about like trying a whole bunch of different ads. Like, oh, I thought that one would work and it didn't, and that one worked, and that's the winner. We're going with that. It's a bake off. So it's kind of split
Right.
testing in your business too, right? Finding out what works, what's not working, and ultimately being willing to take those chances to try.
Would you say speed to implement
Oh, that's a
on those?
huge one. That's a huge one. How fast can I implement something? First deliverable to my client. How can I make that faster? Yeah, all those are
Right.
important.
I always tell my team, like, on creative stuff, I'm like, get me the first version that I can say no to. Right.
I love that. It's a great philosophy.
Because I'm gonna. They're like, oh, yeah," I'm like, yeah. Let's just be real. Let's be adults now. I'm gonna say no to. There's something about it we're gonna say no to. but let's get there quicker.
Yep.
Let's get the first version out so we can say that doesn't look right because we have an idea and we need to get it out there. And then when we get it out into the world, we're like, oh yeah, you should have never happened. Like let's go on to the next version.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. And they did a study here. I don't want to belabor the point, but there was a photography class that he gave one group of students. He says, "I want you to give me the perfect picture. Right? Go get the perfect picture." And then these other guys, and I'm messing up the anecdote. The other guys, he says, "I want you to take as many photos as you can."
Right.
Right? And ultimately, the people that took the most photos ended up having the best picture because they had more opportunities, more chances. They were trying
Right.
more, where everyone else is looking around for just one shot. And they could have been
Right.
taking a lot of pictures, but they were trying to find the perfect shot and they couldn't get it, right?
Right.
The other guys had a lot of iterations. So I think that's what you're saying. Like, show
Yeah.
me a whole bunch of examples, right? We can start working off
Right.
that.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, you gotta get the speed, or another phrase in sales like speed to the lead wins, right?
Mhm.
Right. And the same thing happens in business. No, I appreciate what you shared there as far as that. So really, really, again, thank you from the bottom of my heart for jumping on and sharing
My
your
pleasure.
insights, the challenges. These are the types of things. It's like business owners need to know that others have been through those challenges or been through challenges, how they're overcoming that, and just the thought process. Like it doesn't have to be perfect. You just got to go, in that respect. So appreciate you jumping on, Brandon. And
Thanks for
until
having me.
next time. For those of you watching, tune in next time as we'll bring on another entrepreneur that is inspiring, innovating, and growing. Definitely life lessons that you can learn from. I don't have the next one, but it'll be on our website. So check it out. We'll have it up there. And thank you all for tuning in.